So, how do you do, everybody? I'm John Scrivener from Lech in Arlberg in Austria. You've probably seen our adverts in the model magazines for Flyers Holidays. Not only Flyers, but for the whole family. And flying is an added bonus. We can, to 99%, guarantee interesting and unusual thermic flying every day of the week. We can also give you all the other holiday interests and activities that you'll see on this film, and we look forward to seeing as many of you as possible. Just drop us a line, we'll send you all the information that you require, and look forward to giving you a good holiday.
The Weald and Woodvale Spectacular is now an annual event held in July. The flight line director is John Greenfield of the LMA. Well, Terry Bridle is probably well known for his true-to-scale models, and we have him here with a beautiful model. Terry, can you tell us a little about the model we see in front of you now?
Well, it's a Byron's original. It's a plane they've developed through the years. They started off with a P51, which was the Mustang. This is about the fourth in the line. And it weighs 25 pounds. It's got a Sato 5-cylinder radial in the front, and the prop you see on the front, I haven't really used it yet. I've ran the engine with it, but I haven't flown with it. I need a good day where I can try and fly open space and check it out. It flies on a 28 prop, OPS 28. It took me 8 months to build. The cockpit on its own took me about a month to put together. There was quite a lot of work in doing it. One of the things is collecting all the information on the whole aeroplane, getting the detailed photographs, going to Duxford, taking photographs. So it's been an enjoyable plane to build. The flaps, starting with scale detail, the flaps I put in myself. Byrons give you a drawing of what to do, but they don't actually give you the physical parts, so you have to do that yourself. The paintwork I've got from is Midnight Blue, which I got from a scale book that told me it was Midnight Blue. It has a rester hook, drop tanks as well. The gear is Robart, twist 90 degrees through 90 degrees.
Can you tell us a little bit about the engine you got in this, because it's rather an unusual engine, isn't it?
Yes, it's. I think it's one of the first in the country. It produces about 3.5 horsepower. I've had no real problem with the engines. I've had a few little problems with fuel systems and that, but hopefully that's all okay now.
What sort of fuel do you use in it?
I use 16% with, I use Dynaglow 16% with 2% castor oil, just to give it a base of security, like, you know.
What sort of weight is it, Terry?
25 pounds.
25?
Yeah, 25 pounds it weighs.
And how many channel radio are you using it?
JR, it uses 11 servos.
11 now.
There's 2 on the ailerons, 2 on the flaps, 1 on the elevator, with the arrestor hook, and 2 for the undercarriage system. I have hydraulic rams on the doors, and also the air system to pull up the retracts. The tail wheel has air rams to do for the door and also for the tail wheel.
Well, I think we've just about covered everything on it. It's a superb model.
Thank you.
Very nice to bring along.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's bloody hard, that is.
A superb flight by Terry in these difficult wind conditions. Appearing at most of these shows these days, with 1 or 2 of his large models, is Richard Crabb.
Right, well, this is a copy of Brian Woodford's recently restored Rapide, which is a copy of the King's Flight aircraft from 1935. Although mine's a copy of Brian Woodford's, so it's not exactly like the King's. This is a rebuild of my last one, which crashed at Old Warden 2 years ago when a rigging wire broke. I've made sure the rigging wire won't break this time. I've used flat wire, which I found in the local ironmonger. It's a drain cleaning rod and some decent sized turnbuckles. The thing's covered in Solitex, glass fibre in this cowlings. All the there's a glass fibre tail fillet. My way with radio, I've got no added nose weight in this one. Oh, I think we had about £10 in the last one. It's multiplex. It's 14 servos, and they're nearly all duplicated. There's 1 for each aileron, 1 for each elevator half, 1 on the rudder, 1 on the tail wheel, 1 for each throttle, and 1 to switch the nose light on. The servos are right up the front here, connected to the elevator and rudder by closed loop controls, which go to light bell cranks right at the back. The aileron servos are in the tip of the wing. They're slim line Futaba ones. The nose light is a 12-volt projector bulb, 100 watt, which is a lovely little unit. Comes in a built-in mirror, and it's just set in a piece of Paxilin in there with a lathe-turned piece of Perspex and some 1200 amp hour batteries, which run it for about 6 minutes. It draws about 9 amps. The engines are ordinary Enia 120s. which for the model's, I think, £30 weight, flies it quite adequately. Another thing I've added on this one is these chrome window frames. They are actually chrome-plated brass. It was a job following Brian Woodford's act, because his aeroplane is actually to an incredibly high standard. It's highly polished. You can see a face in every inch of it.
Paul and Ashley came to the show with something different. The smallest motorcycle in the world, powered by a 6.5cc glow engine, and yes, we really can ride it. But what he really likes doing most is powering this unique rocket bike.
This is the world, as far as I know it, one and only rocket motorbike. It might be the last.
Fitted with 25 rockets, all firing at the same time, he can accelerate up to 70 miles an hour in 1 second.
Yeah, Andy, fall on the bike. Now watch everybody. Don't leave. Are you ready? Rocket man, stand by. 3, 2, 1, go!
A lot of smoke. It's a pity the ride doesn't last longer. Thank you, Paul. Richard Rawls models are also very popular, and this Catalina is no exception. It features wingtip floats that retract and also retracting undercarriage. The engines are two in-ear 120Rs, and the aircraft weighs 48 pounds and took 5 months to build. It is 1/8 scale and has a span of 13 feet. This Bud Light laser was built by Pete Ford and is fitted with an experimental TRD 40cc petrol engine and features onboard starting.
$1,576 for these, mate. Oh, don't they look nice together? Don't they? Right panel of the 10-speed model truck. One of the boys flew in this morning on the 10-speed club. Here. Let me go. I've just got to wait for 61. That's the German. Look at 85, 800. Full scale, sharp and gay radio control here using those two Mustangs are out of this world.
Well, sat in front of this rather large aircraft, we have two celebrities today. On the left we have Mr. Kenny Binks, and on the right we have Peter Aston. First of all, Peter, can you tell us how you came about to building an aircraft this size?
Yeah, sure. It started about a year ago last September. I was approached by Warner Brothers. They had a picture in mind they wanted to make where they could use models, and they basically wanted to know what was the largest sort of model we could build, radio controlled, in a fairly short sort of time span. And obviously didn't have a lot of experience in this particular size of model, and we finished up with this size of model. There was half a dozen Mustangs we were asked to build, and they were 12-foot wingspan.
But going right back to the beginning, Peter, they wanted to do some tests, didn't they, first?
Oh,
to
yes,
see
that's
if,
right, yeah. Yes, fortunately, I had a bar-on Mustang, which had already been flown, so it was all trimmed out and ready to fly. And Ken did a demonstration for the producer and the designer of the picture. They videoed it, and they were very impressed, so that really sold them on the idea.
The only thing was they came back and said, we want 12.
That's right, yeah. At that time we didn't have a clue how many they wanted, but finally they came back and they said they wanted 6 Mustangs and 6 Zeros at 12-foot wingspan, and the B29 at 18 feet. And we had 16 weeks building program, and something like a 7-week flying program in southern Spain, which was very nice.
It was quite unbelievable to see the original drawing of the Mustang fuselage laid out on Peter's kitchen floor, and it went up the wall at one end. Of course, then it was made into a glass fibre plug with 6 being made, so that was obviously the way to go. But I don't think there was much sleep in those few weeks, was there?
No, everybody. We had a team of started off with about 6, and it went up to about 12 or 13 towards the end of the programme. And we were working weekends and most evenings towards the end to get the project finished.
The B-29 was actually the first one that flew, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. The programme, the schedule was that they were all going to be finished at the same time and shipped out to Spain. But for some reason or other, I can't remember now, but they wanted the B-29 ready to fly at the beginning of February, and we didn't start construction until about the first week of December. So that gave us about 8 weeks, but in actual fact we didn't quite achieve the first week in February. We were somewhere in the middle of February the first time we flew it, and that was at Oxford.
With snow on the ground.
Very, very cold, very windy, and snow on the ground, as Ken's just said.
Yeah. Ken, tell me, you were the manager of the team organising the flying. Were there any major problems?
Well, yes, because obviously there are no real professional pilots about, and everybody's got their normal jobs to do. So it was a case of finding pilots that could actually drop their daytime work at a fairly short notice and fly up to Spain. We unfortunately had the problem of the schedule keep moving a week or whatever, and some pilots couldn't then make it, so we had a sort of a pool of about 8 pilots to ensure that when we actually needed 6, we finished up with 6 pilots. There was quite a cross-section, but most of the pilots were involved in aerobatics, in FAI aerobatics, and pilots of known standard as far as it was to me, so that I could rely on them being able to do what was required. We had Steve Burgess, the Scottish aerobatic champion, John Palmer, Brian Brotherton, who's been an ex-team member for this country, Graham Briggs, who's been a team member. There was quite a list of people. Paul Jeffries, who's a full-size tri-star pilot, and it all came together when it was required, but it was quite a problem. And if you can imagine sitting out in the middle of almost a desert area in Spain with your ubiquitous cellnet phone, talking to somebody in England, say, well, you better get down to Gatwick or Heathrow a bit quick, and there'll be a first-class ticket waiting for you, and we're flying tomorrow, you know, so get down there. Yeah. And the situation was, of course, that some of them had not even flown the Mustangs or whatever. We gradually test flew them, and they were all trimmed out and that, but the pilots had not generally flown models as big as that. You know, 12-foot span Mustangs with 210 cc engines, 34-inch diameter propellers. They were quite big brutes, and we had to fly them in formation. So, you know, it was very, very interesting.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about the B-29?
Yeah, well, it never ceases to amaze me what Peter seems to be able to produce. You know, this would be about 15 years' work for me, and I probably wouldn't even, you know, achieve it then. But not only did Peter have to sort out, obviously, the drawing and scaling up of the plans, etc., etc., but engines and this sort of thing all had to be found and so on. The undercarriage units were not available at that stage, but Mick Reeves was just starting to tool up for...
Yes, he was just getting into production with his first production model, first production units.
On these very large
So that was a bit of luck
undercarriages.
really there, that one.
So that was all those sort of problems. There was nothing off the shelf. So the first time I really saw it was when it was finished, and we went off to Oxford to test fly it. We obviously did range checks and everything, and you just start to think of the logistics. This model finished up with 6 PCM receivers, I think it was 17 servos, about 12 battery packs, and some of the servos are absolutely massive, the Futaba 134s on the flaps and so on. And a bit like today, it was cold, and we had to take off and land crosswind. It was on a strip that there wasn't the alternative runway, and it flew beautifully right from the first flight. In fact, we've had no problems, touch wood, whatsoever with the B-29. It's a superb flyer, and it really is a soft and gentle model to fly. The only thing you've got to be aware of course, is that there's a lot of inertia involved with a very large model like this, and you've got to touch the ground oh so very gently, because there's a lot of weight to carry on through the ground, you know. But it flies absolutely beautifully. We finished up flying it probably in front of camera about 3.5 hours.
Something like that, yeah.
About 3.5 hours. Actually used in the film was about 4 to 5 seconds. So very expensive 4 to 5 seconds, I should imagine. I haven't costed it out, but I think it was quite expensive.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if Peter can give you a bit more of a fill-in on the building side, because I'm fairly sure it's all mostly built of balsa wood, but
Balsa wood, plywood,
I'll hand over to Peter.
and hardwood construction. You know, we went with conventional construction for quickness. Everybody had their, you know, most of the people involved were aero modelers, so that's the techniques they knew, and that was the best way to go. To give a little bit of information on the aeroplane, this particular, on the B-29, it weighs 100 pounds. It's got 262cc in our engines. The wing loading, if I remember correctly, is getting on for £4 a square foot, something like probably 3.75 pounds per square foot, which seems quite high. But when it gets to this size, it all becomes quite efficient. And the model's got 13 pounds of lead in the nose, which sounds a lot. If you proportion that down to a normal size model aeroplane, it's probably like a pound of lead, what they would have in a normal aeroplane, which is not too much.
Kenny,
Yes.
I believe that for the film you had to teach Steven Spielberg the basics of aero modelling.
Not so much that. We had another couple of the models were light tissue free flight type models, and we had to fly those in various locations in England. And after we'd done some film work, Stephen was very interested in having a go. So we got the model up quite high and gave him the transmitter, explained the basics, did the typical bear hug round the back and showed him how to fly it. And I was quite amazed. Within a couple of minutes he was actually able to fly it reasonably well. Obviously he couldn't have landed it, but he was actually able to keep it flying around in some sort of circuit and so on. But Christian Bale also had a go, who was the lead boy in the film, and he was quite good as well. Because one of the problems was that they had to hand launch it, and the stand-in for Stephen Bale, because for various reasons they can only do so much filming a day, and they had stand-ins where they were looking at the back of the boy or whatever, and we had to have this sort of 11-year-old who had to launch this model, and of course we had to try and teach him how to launch it before risking letting him actually have a go. But in the end it worked out very well, worked fine. But when you see some of the flights, it was launched in Oxford, flown around in Luton, landed in Spain, and it all happens in about 1.5 minutes, you know, and you wouldn't know any different. But that's the way filming is.
Brilliant. Well, thanks very much for bearing with the cold weather and giving us all the information.
No, that's fine.
Look forward to seeing some more of the models in the future.
Pleased to talk to you.
Thanks ever so much indeed.
Yeah, thanks.
ladies and gentlemen. He's got it right again. Oh yes, what a flyer indeed. Well, there it is, one else was
This large Tiger Moth is powered by a 50cc engine and is being flown by Gerhard Reich from West Germany. As you will see, the aircraft is very aerobatic. Go and do your thing.
Translate for us after we come around the corner again. Okay, around the left-hand line. The knowledge come on the left, as well as on the right-hand side. So, allow your people on the right, we're seeing it now, and then down the left area come around as well. Now look at this side, this is clever, this is looking good, this look. Look at that. Now you see, we've never seen radio control modeling before, it's practice about the way we do this. What a demonstration of the first line of Cybercon, coming at 8,800 of these aircraft are made full size. And here, look at it spinning round. Now it's got to drop out of the sky. Yeah. The need making radio work well. Look at that, well, he's done it again for you. And that way, and that way. Poor old air pilot, signals over the minute. Wait, you are. Brilliant and flying. Watch the one on the right there. I must admit I never see an aircraft so proud as much as this one like this. Beautifully flown by our German friend Gerd. round of applause, eh? Super flying. Pilots recognise.
The pilot of this Hercules is Dave Johnson from Liverpool, and with the help of his clubmates has put together this beautiful model.
You know, we'll be here flying till 6 tonight anyway, so you don't want to go home yet, do you? So if you want to form for joining the large pool association, why not? It's a good show to belong to. People belong to it. We got all come and join us. Coming round on landing.
A superb landing from Dave, even though the two outboard engines were cut.
Hey, it flies bloody great.
One of the highlights of the show must have been this monster Lancaster, presented by Powermax and being flown by Roy Lever. Roy likes to be sure that everything is right, of course, and takes every step to ensure safe flight, with talk back to the marshals and flight controllers, and of course the driver of the car. This Cap 21 was built by Fred Beard. Fitted with wingtip smoke canisters operated remotely, it is being flown here by John Palmer.
Good demonstration indeed by two experts. John Palmer out there flying the Cap.
Unfortunately, due to a wire off on the smoke switch, only one came on, and at £8 each, it's probably just as well.
And I'll tell you something else. You better go up and tell your friends you've got a good day. Look, where would you get better value for money than this show, eh? Church, the order, everything at a price you can afford. Bring the family, go and tell your neighbors. Forget your electricity bill and telephone bill. Oh, I've just done it now, so I've just reminded you. Well done, you, sir. Well done, John.
Andreas Gietz on the right is also from West Germany, and to put our questions to him was Gerhard Reint.
Yeah, Reint.
Welcome to England. Andreas, can you tell us a little about this wonderful DC-3 that you've brought here to the show with you?
Yeah.
But we'd like to know, first of all, what gave you the idea to build an aircraft of this size?
Warum hast du so ein großes Flugzeug gebaut? Wie bist du dazu gekommen?
Ja, die größte, was bei uns unter 20 Kilo noch zu fliegen ist, weil wir die 20 Kilo Begrenzung haben.
You said it's the largest size you can build in it because we have this 20 kilogram rule in Germany.
You have a 20 kilogram...
It weighs 20 kilogram,
yeah,
and it's as big as possible, not to exceed this limit.
Oh, I see. So you wanted to build an aircraft as big as possible without exceeding the 20 kilogram limit.
That's
yes?
right.
Good. What is the aircraft? What materials did you use in the aircraft
Woraus ist
construction?
das gebaut?
Das Rumpf ist Styropor mit Epoxidharz, Blattgewebe, Tragfläche ist Styropor und Balsaholz und bespannt mit Bügelfolie und der Rumpf ist lackiert.
Also the fuselage is styrofoam covered with glass tissue with epoxy, and the wings are styrofoam and balsa wood blanked, and it's covered with chrome monocoat.
Yeah. Good. Approximately how long did it take to make?
Wie lange hat es gedauert zu bauen?
1000 hours.
1,000
About
hours.
1000 hours.
1,000. Can you tell me the engines that you're using in it? The motors?
Welche Motor ist?
26 Kubik Gemini. OS Gemini.
This 26cc OS Gemini engine, twin cylinder, 4-stroke.
There's two.
Two of them,
Two of them,
of
yeah.
course.
Yeah. And the propellers?
The propellers, welche Propellers sind das?
16,8 Treiblatt. 16,8 Zoll.
16 by 8 Zoll 3-blade.
Got a material?
The material is nylon from
Nylon propellers, yeah. Yeah. I believe you made the undercarriage yourself. Can you tell us the material you use for the undercarriage and the system you use?
Woraus ist das
They're
alles
retractable,
Product
of course.
gemacht?
Aluminium und Stahl.
Yeah.
Lennig is aluminium and steel.
Aluminium and steel. Yeah. Yeah. Did you have any plans to work from for this model, or was it all your own design and?
Hast du irgendeinen Plan gehabt?
Ja, ist alles selbst gemacht. Ich habe auch selbst keinen Plan gezeichnet. Ich habe also nur Detailzeichnungen und Maße.
Everything is built he has built everything himself. There's no plan.
No.
When he hasn't even a plan for himself,
What
just
happened?
build it
Yeah.
after his review.
Gosh.
And we made detailed drawings, but not the complete model.
No. No. Well, what scale does it work out at?
Was für ein Maßstab ist das?
1:6.
It's 1/6.
1/6 scale. Is it? Is it? How many servos would you use in this then?
Wie viele Servos?
14.
14 Servos.
14. And how many receivers? Receivers? How many
How many,
receivers?
wie viele Empfänger?
2 receivers and 4.
2 receivers, yes.
Gosh. And the radio you use on this is?
Robbo
Das ist Robbe.
TM Rex.
Robbie.
Robbe.
Yeah. Can you tell me a little about the starting system you have on this? I believe you have a special
is-
system.
What looks like a reduction gear, it is a self-made onboard starter. It is a Freilauf?
Ja, Freilauf.
It's a one-way, it's from a boat, the drive, electric motor,
Yeah.
and the shaft from a drive.
Yeah.
It's a boat drive.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's geared down 1 to 5.5 and then again 1 to 8. And there's this ratchet
Ratchet.
one-way clutch in front of it. That's all.
Yeah. That's good.
It's a boat drive.
So if you have an engine failure in the air, you can actually start again.
But if you had an engine failure in the air, but it wouldn't start it.
Oh, it's good though, isn't it? Lovely stuff. That's all right. Thank you. Ben is the pilot of this magnificent show-stopping aeroplane at 5:10. With all the lights on, everything hanging up, and you see it there, he drifts in. He's perfect, he's gorgeous, he's lovely at smashing, he's 21 years old, he's brilliant, good looking, all the other adjectives. And I want you to stop it to him big and loud, ladies and gentlemen and children, as he lands the aircraft perfect. Let's give it a him big. Young Andreas Keith, well done, son.
Brian Peckham's models and plans are known worldwide. I visited him at his home and spoke to him about this particular aircraft. Well, if you can tell me first of all, Brian, what gave you the inspiration to build an aircraft like this?
Oh, that was easy. That was Doug Shepherd sent me some drawings. He said, "You want to try this one? You want something new? You want to try this one?" And I'd never heard of a Red Wing before, but it was made locally. It was made about 3 miles away from here at Wadden, right on the edge of Croydon Airfield then. And so, you know, chasing up a bit of information. Flight had a lot of good photographs. I had to do my own drawing. Unfortunately, there's one surviving example, which is based down in Sussex. So it's all easily obtainable. So putting it all together, we had got a very pretty aeroplane. And doing the drawings, the scale was determined by the size of the motor we could hide inside the cowling, which is around about 5th scale. And that was it. It took about 6 months spare time. And the last 4 screws were put in the cowling when I was having a heart attack just before last Christmas.
Fully recovered now.
Oh yes, well, so they tell me. And it was entered in a Model Engineer exhibition in its unflown state, where it got a silver medal. And it was flown shortly afterwards in April, on a good day in April, where it needed a little bit of lead up the front and had a bloody great warp on the wing, which we hadn't noticed. But never mind, we did get it, hop it off the ground and put it down again quickly, but it was obvious it was going to be a real cracker of flying. Well, with about another nearly half a pound, 3/4 of a pound of lead up the front and the warp taken out the wing, I test for it in a howling gale and rain at the SMA Skeldu down at Abingdon. And it was obvious, even in those conditions, that it was a real beaut to fly. Unfortunately, I had a motor cut in there, which made a hasty landing, didn't do a lot for the undercarriage, but it survived. So, and it was used again, really, its really first real competition success was at Woodvale, where you're seeing it fly. And last week, high static mark, good flying, on very nice weather. It all came together and we got his 3rd place. used again at the Nationals. It once are good. The competition's a bit tougher there, so we ended up a bit lower down the scale, but much the same flying and static characteristics. And again at the team trials it got very high static marks, although well, unfortunate there to have a motor cut in both flights, which sort of stopped any of that. But obviously the judges can't think there's much wrong with it. It's been numerous things put right on it, but only very minor things over the season, so now it's about as close as we'll ever get to 100%. And in its present state it weighs just under 6.5 kilograms, flown by an ENEO 120, which provides ample oomph, although the first flights were done with an OS 90 full straight, but the 120 gives that little bit of reserve. And that's about it really, I suppose. It's a real dream to fly though, it really is. It's an aeroplane you can actually relax while you're flying it and think about what you're going to do next without having to worry about what the aeroplane is doing.
Take your turn. Now.